Thoughts on the upcoming TV deal?
That's a great question, man. I think this next one will be good. I don't think it'll be as long as the last one. I don't think it'll be 10 years. I think it could be shorter. I don't know. They don't tell me. But I'm worried about the next one after that. Because if we don't get into the streamers, right, it makes sense for the streamers like Amazon and ESPN, Disney to want to work with us long term because we help reduce churn, but that's not a sure thing. That's not a sure thing at all. Because I think what people forget, we said, okay, the team's worth billions, teams are worth billions, people are playing billions. People forget, like, when you guys were in, the cap was like flat.
Yeah.
Right?
Solid.
It was just like 40 million to 50 million from 2000 when I bought the team. And there were years where it was down. I remember when we got Jay Kidd sitting there saying, Deuce, the cap went down, right? I got less money to spend now. And then in 2010, remember, New Orleans, no one would buy it. The league had to take it over. And so I'm not saying it's going to be like that, but the point is, it's not automatic that everything always gets better. Right? Interest rates are way up. The stock market isn't blowing up, right? When interest rates are up, that hurts the value, that makes it harder to invest in broadcasting and everything. And then you add to that old school television is dying, right? And streaming's taking over. So old school television, linear TV, cable, satellite needs us right now because we pull better ratings, right? Because what's really changed is we see it with Shark Tank and other things that I do. Like, it used to be, you knew that what shows were coming on ABC, CBS, and NBC, right? There was the big, this big show, that big show. Now all the big shows go into streaming, except for Shark Tank. All the big shows go Friday night on ABC. All the big shows go to streaming, right? And they're not going to linear television, so it's all sports on linear television. That's good in the short term, but it's not sustainable in the long term. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think this deal from again, they don't tell me shit, but this deal will be good, but the next one is the one I'm worried about.
Interesting. In-season tournament. Thoughts?
My first thought was, why, right? And then my second thought was, why not?
Okay. Okay. All right.
Why not, right? What's the downside, right?
I was like, I agree with your first one. I'm like,
what's the point, right? Yeah. But if it gets somebody excited and you're going to have a championship game in Vegas and you can bring people in, bring sponsors in and bring advertisers in and all that kind of stuff, and it gives you something other than the All-Star game to pimp out. So I'm like, okay, let's just see what happens, and works in soccer, so it's worth trying. There's no downside.
Yeah. I liked a lot of people didn't like the play-in. I liked the play-in because I just thought it brought more excitement earlier, faster.
For sure.
So that's the idea comes from soccer? That's the idea?
Yeah, because they do it in soccer all the time. Okay, so like even the MLS and around Europe, they have cups during the year and all that. And even European basketball's got it. Remember, there's like the Euro Cup and there's the Euro League and they have different tournaments. You've got, a league that's just Spain, a league, so they do that stuff all the time.
For someone who's very in touch with just fans, players, community, how do you feel like the fan experience will change in the next 10 to 20 years when it comes to basketball? That's
a great question too. You guys are ripping these out, man.
Shout out our guys.
Good job, producers. So there's a bunch of different levels there. One, we talked about television, right? Like, we grew up, you loved the teams that your parents loved. Yeah. Right? What city you were in, I grew up in Pittsburgh, it was Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, right? There wasn't an NBA team. Come down here, it's Cowboys, Rangers, let's go Rangers, man, close this shit out.
One game.
The Stars, the Mavs, and so you just automatically love those teams. But now my son is like, and it's about the player.
All about the player.
More than the team, right? And so now we have to realize that teenagers are getting all their NBA from social media. And that's when I'm talking to board and governors meetings, I'm like, that's where we got to go get the money because TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, they're killing it off of us. Like on old school, like I was talking to somebody like, well, why does the NFL kill you on television? Because television viewers are older, right? The average age, is 65, 70, 75 now. And that those people are not on social media, whereas we dominate the NBA. The NBA dominates the NFL more on social media than the NFL dominates us on television, right? And so that means we've got to stay closer to kids on social to really keep them connected to us, and that's a lot more work. And it changes all the time because our 14-year-olds are different than the 14-year-olds of 10 years ago, and it's going to be different than the 14-year-olds of 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And so that's going to change how we connect to fans, and then getting them into the arena. That I don't think is going to change as much. Like there's more digital, the screens are bigger, right? People are gambling, that changes a bunch. But when you come to a game, I was just having this conversation with our people last week. It's got to be more like a wedding, right? Where when you walk in, everybody's got to be hype about what's going on, right? There's a unique energy. When you walk into a game, what makes it different than watching the game is the energy you feel when you walk in. You guys feel it, right? When the crowd's there, you know the difference between a joint where the crowd is rocking and the music getting them going. And so I don't think that changes because that's what makes going to a game special. When that ball is in the air at the end of the game and you're screaming and yelling, or everything stops because you're waiting, like that Luka shot, right? Everything stops and then the whole place erupts. You know, and if that's a game winner, you're hugging people you've never seen before. That, you know, you don't ever want that to change. That's what makes sports special. But everything else is going to change.
Yeah, it has to.